Hey guys, hope you're doing well today. I know I'm going to be talking to a lot of homeschool moms or wannabe homeschool moms, maybe homeschool dads, those that are thinking about homeschooling. I'm so excited to have you guys here. I'm just putting on some Envision so I can make sure I focus, because I tend to get distracted sometimes as moms, and we're great multitaskers, and sometimes our brains like to multitask without us choosing it, so try to stay on task here. If you're watching on the replay, comment replay. I'm hoping a lot of other homeschool parents hop on here too, so that way we can have a sharing of information. I'm not an expert, I'm just sharing my story. If you are a homeschool parent and you're hopping on, share how long you've been homeschooling, just anything you want to share about it, but I'd love to hear about how long you've been homeschooling, or if you're thinking about homeschooling. So I'm going to share a little bit of background first, kind of why we homeschool and all that, and then I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions for North Carolina homeschool. Obviously, if you're in a different state, that's going to look a little different for you, but I'll give you the steps for how to set up your homeschool if you're in North Carolina. And then I'm going to go through some of the questions I had off the post I did yesterday about different situations with homeschooling, different things. Hey, Kanan. And then I'm going to go over a little bit about what curriculum we've been using. So I'll try to keep this pretty short, as short as possible, because I know we're all busy. So a little why we homeschool in our background. I grew up homeschooling. I was homeschooled until 9th grade, and then I went to high school at a very small Christian school. I think our graduating class had maybe 16 people in it. If any of you guys are hopping on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I had 16 people in it. My husband grew up the whole time in public school, so we had some very different views and things to go off of in our decision. Honestly, when I was younger, I thought I would never homeschool for various reasons, but I ended up homeschooling. In my mind, it was only going to be for the first year or so, and then now as I've gone through it, I've just realized that this is, for now, at least unless God tells us otherwise, this is what we're called to do. So Ava, my oldest, is almost 10, will be 10 this year, so we've been homeschooling. This will be our 5th year homeschooling. Then the other two are homeschooling this year. So that's a little bit of background. We really decided to homeschool, originally it was because Ava had a lot of ADD, ADHD issues, and I just worried about her being in school. Her birthday's in October, so I knew that if she went to school, she'd have to wait. She's been writing her name and stuff like that since she was like 2, so I was a little worried that she would be bored by the time she was able, because she'd be almost 6 going into school, and with her ADHD and ADD, that she would just, there would be a lot of issues. So that was really kind of why it started. And then just praying about it, just going through life, really just feeling like this is where God's called me to be. And with Josh's schedule, he's able to be here for a good part of the day before he has to go to work, or at least in the morning. So we could both work together homeschooling, and just being able to instill what we want to instill into our kids to raise them biblically. We're not trying to put them in this bubble or shelter them from everything in life. We do talk about things, but we like being able to introduce things to our kids and talk to our kids about things hopefully before the world does, and before they have all these other things attacking them. So that's a little bit of our background. So if you're joining late, hi guys. If you're a homeschool mom, please comment how long you've been homeschooling. Feel free to comment along the way, anything that you would like to add to what I'm saying, or correct me if I'm wrong. And if you're new to this or not new to this, ask questions along the way. So in North Carolina, I'm going to give you a couple websites. I'll type them in after I get done with this. I'll type them in too. But a couple websites are ncadmin.nc.gov, and also ncadmin, so ncadmin.nc.gov. So those are two websites that have a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here. So the first thing you have to do, obviously after praying, just if you're praying about it, if you pray about things, pray about it for sure, and decide that this is what you're going to do and be on the same page with your spouse. file a notice of intent to homeschool. So this is basically, some call it a letter of intent. This is basically, and you'll find a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about on the website. So this is basically just your formal thing that you are going to homeschool. And it has to be done after July 1st of each year. So if you go on there now and try to do that, it's not going to work because it's the end of May. So they're not looking for the next year. So you have to do it after July 1st. And that's with ncadmin.nc.gov, which is the North Carolina Division of Non-Public Education. So after you do that, then you're going to submit proof that one of the parents that's homeschooling has a high school diploma or equivalent. You don't have to do it for both parents, even if you'll both be homeschooling, whatever, just do it for one parent. I believe I sent a picture of my diploma in, and maybe my driver's license, but it'll tell you all that when you go through online. Then you're going to have to name your school. So there is some things, like they do have some rules about, hey sweetie. Mommy? Yes, Mommy's busy. Go find Daddy. You know, Daddy can't do anything. Mommy has to do it. I didn't say that right. Daddy can do stuff, but you know how kids just like, oh, I need something. Let me go to Mommy. Okay, so you name your school. So there is some, on the website, it does say some instructions of things that you can't do when you're naming your school. But for the most part, it's just whatever you feel like you're supposed to do. Maybe you have a name you want to use. We decided our homeschool name is Mountain Arrows Homeschooling. Mountain kind of comes from where we live. We lived on a road that had mountain in the name, and coincidentally we moved to a mountain road. And the arrows was based off a verse in Psalms about God. I think it's Psalm 127, but it's about sending out our arrows into the world. So that's kind of where we got our name. And then, so you name your school, and think about something. It'll tell you this on there, but just think about what's going to be on the transcripts, you know, what's going to be, you know, on there. Just think about it. It does require a little bit of planning ahead, thinking about they're going to be their school name for like their whole life. So then you're going to keep attendance records. I printed off a blank one to show you, and this is on the websites I gave you too. It's basically just a blank attendance record. It's got the months and stuff, and you just literally check off the days you do school. So that can look like, in North Carolina, thankfully, there is freedom for that to look like whatever you want it to look like. That can look like, you know, sitting down doing curriculum. That can look like going on a field trip. That can look like doing some math problems while you're cooking. That could really look like whatever you decide is school that day. So that's really nice to have that freedom. And just something to remember, you are not doing school at home. You are homeschooling. It's completely different. So just kind of think that way, because in the beginning I used to think I'm doing school at home. It does not have to be structured like school. This is homeschooling. So you keep attendance records. You could just keep this thing, you know, by week, by day. You can tape it up where you do school, stick it in your folder, just a little check mark when you do it. And you don't have to turn those in. It's just, you know, in case you need them. Another thing you need to keep are, if you vaccinate, you'll need to keep immunization records on file. If you don't vaccinate, you get a religious exemption, and you keep your religious exemption on file for each child. So keep that. And then, and you don't have to save all your curriculum. You can save different things if you'd like to, but you don't have to save everything they do. So that would really add up quick. Thankfully, in North Carolina, you don't have to do that. Then you have to do annual standardized testing. So within 1 year of homeschool, I'm reading this to make sure I don't tell you the wrong thing. So within 1 year of your homeschool start date, you have to do the annual standardized testing, and then every year after that. So what that looks like is there are several different tests. The one I really prefer is called the Woodcock-Johnson test. It just kind of tells you where to start. It tells you kind of what kind of depending on who you get to do it. The lady that did Ava's is amazing. and she told me what kind of learner Ava was. It kind of shows where their grade level is at with all different subjects, you know, and not just, oh, math and language. It's very in-depth with talking about where they are, so you know what they need, because every kid and every is not a one-size-fits-all. You know, in school, yes, they have to kind of follow a generic thing, but when you're homeschooling, you can teach them what they need to learn. So if they're struggling in reading and you find that out, then you know you need to focus on that. So I really like that test. It's very, very helpful. There are several Woodcock-Johnson people who administer it. The lady I use, if you want her information, message me. I know she's actually been doing it when I was a homeschooler. She was teaching, so she knows what she's doing, and she's a homeschool mom herself. But I know there's lots of other very helpful people to do that too. Let's see. So that is, I think I covered all the instructions for how to start homeschooling. I know a couple people had answered questions. I'm going to go over questions in a second. Let me just make sure I covered everything. I think I covered everything with that. So some of the questions I had yesterday that kind of go back to what I just said. Sabrina had asked opinions on curriculum. I'm going to go over that after the questions. She had asked how to keep younger kids engaged while the older ones are working. So my next ones, Ava's 9 right now, and my next ones are 5 and almost 4. So they've had 2 little ones for a while when we were homeschooling. So it does get hard. Some of my suggestions are food, of course, snacks. Toddlers always love snacks, babies. If you have a baby, try to do it during nap time if you can. If the baby can't be settled with you, or they're not in their bouncer. Sometimes I had little ones in the bouncer or whatever, or even do it during nap time. School doesn't have to be done, 8 o'clock in the morning. Stamps, depending on the age, of course, this is kind of like toddler age, like 2-ish or, younger. So stamps, stickers, just giving them, I used to give the girls a little sheet of stickers and a piece of paper, and it does, it takes them a while to learn to peel and stick, and sometimes they ended up all over the place, but we got school done. So Play-Doh is really good too when they get a little bit bigger to not eat things. I also love doing sensory bins, like with beans. You could do a bunch of beans, a bunch of rice, and they can just sit there and entertain themselves. If you make your own Play-Doh, I have a good recipe for that too, Sabrina or anybody else in that situation. That way, if they do eat it, if they're little and they do eat it, they'll be okay. So stamps, food, toys. Another good thing is to have a box of toys that she only gets to play with, or they only get to play with during that specific time. So that way it's super fun and interesting, and then those toys get put away after homeschool time is over. So the little ones can kind of look forward to playing with those toys. And that could be exciting. And then you can also rotate them if you find that they're not being entertained by those. Have a couple more boxes, with not a ton of stuff, but, say this week it's cars, this week it's Legos, whatever. So that way it's something exciting. And then let's see. So Gina had asked, she was homeschooling her daughter, and then she went to public school, and she never closed out her homeschool. So what does she do now? So as far as I have researched and understand, your homeschool is open unless you close it. So once you open your homeschool, it is open unless you close it. You would have to, if you're pulling them out of public school, from what I understand, you have to, fill out a thing saying you're withdrawing them from school, but you don't have to reopen your homeschool. You just go back to what you were doing. Gina asked if she's adding her son, like if you had multiple kids when you're homeschooling, if you have to go in and add them to your original thing. That is not required to add them. You can, start your homeschool, open it up. If you have 10 kids, you don't ever have to go back in and add them. You can if you want to, but it is not required to right now. Caitlin has some great ideas. I know she's got a little one to keep entertained too, so thank you for posting those, Caitlin. So Gina, I hope that answered your question too. So your homeschool is open. So you just need to withdraw your daughter from school. So Faith had asked, her daughter's starting kindergarten, but she's already registered for school. So basically, in North Carolina, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but in North Carolina, you do not have to register for homeschool until your child is 7. So you would have to obviously unenroll your child from kindergarten if you've already enrolled, but you don't need to enroll them with homeschooling or set up your own, any of the stuff I just said until she's 7, until the year she's turning 7. So asked about curriculums. I'm going to cover that. Cost, that depends on curriculums. There's that. You don't have to pay to be able to homeschool or anything like that. How to register, I covered that. And then Faith, she also asked, is North Carolina K-12 online public the same as homeschool? And no, it's not. Homeschool in North Carolina, it is, I want to say whatever you want it to be, but there's a few guidelines, and then it's whatever you want it to be. The NC K-12 online public is still a school thing. So I hope that makes sense. So I want to go over a little bit of curriculum really quick and what school can look like. So this year there's several different types of curriculum. Even if you just Google types of curriculum, there is, I want to say sections, but categories, so you can kind of figure out what you're looking for. I like Charlotte Mason curriculum. So if you Google, the Charlotte Mason homeschooling method, that is one of my favorites. Other than unschooling, we've done unschooling too, and I love that too. But Charlotte Mason is really good for special needs kids. I know I've got a lot of friends that are thinking about homeschooling and have special needs kids, or people that are, you moms are very worried about homeschooling special need kids, and I understand it can be stressful to think about. So I'd look into the Charlotte Mason method for that. Charlotte Mason has a lot of short sessions, oral narrations, and nature time is a big thing. There is a lot of freedom. There is a lot of discovery. Just to me, it's just a lot of life, a lot of reading, a lot of nature, and that's just what we like. So I like Charlotte Mason personally, but there's several other different kinds. Then another thing, and this isn't a curriculum, but when you have little ones, or even if they're a little bit bigger, ask them what they want to learn. That is a really good way to handle school. That is how we've done it before doing the curriculum we're doing this year. The past couple years, we've been kind of unschooling and just going. Of course, Jade just turned 5, so it was more just our oldest one. But ask them what they want to learn. Do you want to learn about sharks? Do you want to learn about horses? What do you want to learn about? And let them kind of lead it. And every child is different. Some might just say nothing. So in that case, try to figure out what their interests are, what they're into. If they really like rocks, you could study rocks. We did a rock study when Ava was into that. There was a free rock museum on Main Street. You can go to the gem mine and dig up some rocks. There's a lot of different things you can incorporate. Go to the library, look at the section that's on that, and let them check out, I would say check out all the books, but then other homeschool moms go and they're like, what the heck, someone just check out all these books. So check out several books on that topic, and just let them do that. So Marissa asked, what's the difference in unschooling and homeschooling? Unschooling is, people define this a lot of different ways, but to me it means that you aren't sitting down having a structured curriculum. You aren't having a schedule. You are just letting it be child-led. So if your kids want to learn about math, you get them math. If they want to learn about history, you get them history. For us, it looked like a lot of reading, a lot of library trips, a lot of doing whatever she wanted to do, learning about math through cooking, just living life, but not having a set thing. I did make available a ton of books. We buy a lot of Usborne books. They're really great. If you know Usborne Rep, check out their site. If you don't know what that is, message me. Their books are really great. There's a lot of options there. Of course, the library is a great resource option, buying books, but I like to have books on the shelf, things that they can do if they want to. And honestly, for my oldest, having the books available to do whatever she wanted to made her want to do them more. So she really just sticking them on the shelf, she'd go get her history book and read like 10 pages, even though a normal history lesson would be like 2 pages. So yeah, so, and along with that, I also recommend if your kids are coming from public school and you're going to homeschool, let them de-school for a while. It's kind of like unschooling, but it's just de-schooling, which is just letting them just decompress from the stress and the pressure. I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking bad about public schools, because I'm really not trying to do that. But sometimes for a lot of kids, as you moms know that even have kids in school, it can be a lot of pressure. It can be a lot of stress. There's a lot expected of them, a lot of homework, a lot of stuff. And if your kids have had a hard time with that, let them kind of de-school for a while. Just let them chill out. Let them be kids. Let them play. Let them, reading. I never will not recommend reading. Reading out loud, even when your kids are the age to read. Reading out loud, go and research it, because there's a ton of benefits for them by you reading out loud to them or narrating, even when they're, way past reading age. So I'll never not recommend that, but unschool them, de-school them for a while, maybe unschool for a little bit, and just let them kind of get back to a new normal. So ask them what they want to learn. Read a lot of books. Have a lot of books on the shelves. There's free reading programs through the Dolly Parton thing you can sign up with at the library that mails you books. Of course, Usborne. I've noticed a lot of the books I've gotten from Usborne have been ones that all my kids can use. Ask them a lot of questions. Just ask them about, what are you doing? What are you playing? What are you measuring? Just asking them questions, get them to think about what they're saying, especially if they're in, kindergarten, first grade. That age is just, I feel like too much is put on them when they're in a school setting that they should for their age. That's just my opinion. They should be allowed to just play and learn, because kids learn so much by being creative. Our brains cannot even do what they used to be able to do when we were kids. Just being imaginative, creative, exploring, they can do that on their own without us telling them what to do. So ask them a lot of questions. Free play, just send them outside. For kids that have been in a structured setting, that might be very hard for them at first. Just be consistent with them. Just send them outside. Don't give them a task, or even in the house. Just say, play whatever, just go play. And they might fight you at first, but just stick with it. They just have to learn to create on their own. My girls have kind of grown up in that, so that's just their normal. But just let them free play. Give them things to build with. Magnet blocks are great. Legos are great. Of course, Legos, you can get them for the older ages too. Anything that involves them being creative and playing and building something out of nothing. Having a lot of craft supplies that don't require you sitting down like doing a structured craft, but just like paper, glue, a couple, maybe not glitter, that's probably not a great idea, but like paper, glue, kids' scissors, stuff like that, letting them just be able to create. Stuff we do, pattern blocks are really good things to have on hand. Puzzles are really good. I'm trying to think of some other things that I didn't write down, but there's a lot of things like that you can just have for them to do, and they're still learning. So let's see, building things. Okay, so something my kids have been liking, and what I wanted to mention was YouTube. Of course, Netflix and YouTube and stuff like that. We do use the TV occasionally to look up things. I use YouTube a lot to search specific things we're talking about. Like when we're learning about birds, we look up bird calls and things like that. So there is some really good channels and things like that on YouTube and on Netflix. Something my kids have been really liking for drawing and art is Art Hub. It's ARTHUB. YouTube channel, and it's a dad, and he has, I think, 3 or 4 different kids, so there's different levels of drawing with each kid, and he draws with each kid, and my girls have loved it. I've really seen their drawing skills improved. It's also really good because it's like he tells them, I'm trying to think of what it's called, but listening and doing, and my brain's like frozen right now, but they listen to the instruction, and then they're getting to listen and do what he's saying. So that's been helpful. So those are kind of my unschooling, like deschooling, just things in general to have for homeschool kids. A couple of curriculums. There's so many, you guys. It really just depends on what kind of style you like. My Father's World is a very common curriculum I've heard of. I've researched a little bit. Master Books is another really common one. And of course, when you're looking at curriculum, if you want it to be biblical, also look at that. Look at where they're coming from. There's secular curriculums, there's biblical curriculums, there's just different things. So right now we are using Gather Round. I did another short video about this a couple weeks ago, but please do research it for yourself. There's an online Facebook group also, so you can kind of get into it, and you don't have to I don't believe you have to be a member of it before you join it. You can just join it to learn a little bit, but it's called Gather Round, and especially if you have multiple children, it's really good. We love it. We've been doing it. I think we're on like lesson 12. We're shooting for like 4 days a week. 3 3 to 4 days a week, somewhere like that. I'm more relaxed about it, but the kids have been bugging me. They love it, so they've been like, can we do school today? Can we do school today? Jade wants to do school on the weekend, so they really love it. It's very relaxed. I'd say we're done with school in about an hour. It includes everything, every subject, language arts, science, history, all that stuff, except for math. Although I have noticed in Jade's age, she is doing the pre-reader, and there is some math in there, and Lily is not even 4 yet, but she really wanted to do this, so we kind of just printed her a book and let her do it, and she's been doing it too, and she really loves it too. So all my girls are doing it. For math, we are using master books this year. I've heard that the creator of Gather Round is creating a math program next year, so we might switch, but we like master books so far. There's usually only 1 page, maybe 2 pages. It's fun and interactive, and it's not a lot of just blah worksheets for kids that have a hard time. Trying to think of anything else. You can either buy those. What I liked about it is you can print them, so if you have multiple kids, it's more cost effective, because you can print, and if you have a good printer, of course. If you print the curriculum, and then you just use them as you go, and there's tons of different stuff. I'll let you guys look at that and check it out and research it, but that's what we're using. We're loving. I don't see us switching from it anytime soon. The reason why we started doing that from unschooling is because my kids were starting to ask a little bit more. Jade decided she wanted to learn to read. She said that she wanted to do math. Ava wanted to do more math. So I kind of just went off of them saying they wanted to do this. I looked at the curriculum. I thought it might be a good fit. And right now, they all love it, and it's working. And, oh, power just flickered. So that's what we're loving and doing. And, of course, you can add in, I also wanted to add real quick, you know, when you're homeschooling, you can add in stuff. I know a lot of people say that homeschooling is you don't get social interaction or anything like that. There's so much stuff you can do. My personal belief is that our family does not believe that we should be running around every day of the week doing a million different things. I believe a lot is done at home and try to home-centered. But, you know, you could still do gymnastics and dance. My daughter's played soccer. She's done dance. She's done different things like that. There's a big 4-H club. Of course, if you're in bigger cities, there's probably tons more stuff. But there's different homeschool associations. There's a Hendersonville Homeschool Association. Biltmore Church has a homeschool association that you can be a part of and do classes. We've done that. So there's lots of different, you can be a part of different co-ops and do classes. Usually it's 1 day a week, and they have, like last year, we did the Biltmore classes, and my daughter did drama and writing a book and art and things like that. So you can add in other things. You know, you have the ability to go on field trips. You can go wherever you want to go. A lot of places, if you look around at different museums and stuff, usually during the school year, I don't know how it's going to look like this year, but you can go and have certain days and you can get discounts, or you can also have it just be really open. There's not a ton of people there, which is nice. So I think I kind of covered everything I want to cover. I'm open to any more questions if anybody would like to ask any more. I'm going to check back through and make sure I answered and went over everything. But I hope that wasn't just an overload of information. And again, my goal is not to try to talk bad about public school or to say that everyone should homeschool. I just want to share what works for us and what we're doing, and hopefully help some other mamas decide what they want to do. So if I didn't answer your question here, or if something else popped up you think of later, feel free to message me. I'd love to talk about homeschooling, or if you just want to come check out our curriculum, I'm happy to share that too. I do have a couple other curriculums that we've tried, like Sunlight and things like that, probably still in boxes if you want to check out that too. But message me. I'm always here. I thank you guys for watching. I thank you for contributing, the homeschool mamas that have commented and contributing what your info is. If you have anything else to add, please do. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Bye.